So you heard me introduce Mihai with doctor before her full name. And yes, she is a doctor. Dr. Mihai, please, I invite you to the stage.
Thank you very much, Nigali. Well, my story can be given quite a number of titles. One could say it is a tragic story. Another could say it is a story of courage and perseverance. Well, I choose to call it a story of hope, a story of God, something one could call from ashes to beauty, a beautifully stained glass window. Thank you. Most of you know of... Thank you. Well, most of you know of the war that tore the country of Rwanda apart in 1994. I was barely 3 at that time. Before the war, we were a big, happy family. Our house was close to my grandparents' house, so my young sister and I used to spend most of our days with uncles and aunties. I even had my own cow from which I drank milk. So it was a beautiful and happy childhood life, like for any other Rwandese child, drinking sour milk with sweet potatoes. Well, this all ended in 1994 April. I don't remember much from when the war started in Rwanda, but what is stuck in my mind is my father's burial. I remember being told that my father had been killed and his body being brought home wrapped in this blue tent. And I remember at his burial I was told to chew some sorghum and then spit in his grave as a Rwandese tradition, but well, I swallowed it instead. Swallowed. I was still too young to understand what was going on. After my father's death, my family knew that it was no longer safe for us, so we had to pack and leave. We first fled to another district, and while there, my young sister, who was about 1 year old, got sick. But because of the war, she was not able to get proper treatment, so she passed away. So I lost a second sister because I had had an older sister who passed away before I was born. But war did not end as soon as they had hoped. So we had to flee from through Burundi to reach a refugee camp in Congo called Chimanga. And there in the camp, I was a very happy kid. But this all ended when I encountered more loss. My mother got sick later, and one night she was gone. But life had to move on, and started staying with my grandparents. And then in November of 1996, our little sanctuary of Shimanga was invaded by war. Then we were about to experience a life that is unimaginable. We fled the camp, entered the forests of Congo with bullets behind our backs. My whole family got separated until some point it was just me and grandmother and grandfather. We had wandered for so long that whatever resources we had managed to carry got finished, and we only survived by begging for food from the natives, if there were any in the villages. Sometimes we were very lucky if we were given nsima, which is an African maize pulp that had mold on it. If there were none in the villages, then we'd go in and help ourselves. And if nothing at all was available, we even had to eat roots from the forest. And I remember sometimes we had to drink water from a river with dead bodies floating in it. So you see, it was survival of the fittest. And now imagine for yourself, all the wandering was on foot. And sometimes you had to walk on tarred roads. And when we no longer had any shoes with us, and walking on these roads in the hot weather, it was very painful, and we developed sores. So we had to make something round from grass, called ingata in Kinyarwanda, and tie it under our feet to be able to walk. We escaped death from so many things, from hunger, bullets, drowning, wild animals, you name it. No child should go through what I went through. In fact, nobody should go through what I went through. So we later entered Angola, but life was not better there. I remember in Angola and in Congo as well, we had some soldiers who were protecting us. But these same soldiers would come among us and take some young boys and make them carry their bullets. And these are those young men you find in refugee camps with some sort of trauma. They would also come, the soldiers, and take some young girls to sleep with them, make some their wives. Some got pregnant, others got HIV and AIDS. The only reason I survived this was because I was very little. Well, so you see, it was back and forth from Congo into Angola, back into Congo and Angola again. And by the time we reached Angola for the second time, my grandmother was very exhausted. And as for me, I was very malnourished. You can imagine with a big tummy and thin brown hair and swollen cheeks and feet. And as though I had not encountered enough loss, my grandmother passed away just before we reached a refugee camp. There was no crying at this time. My little heart had hardened after a long and painful journey of about 1 year. And had we not reached this refugee camp in Angola, I was also almost gone. But, well, in the camp there, we were later moved to Meheba refugee camp in Zambia. And after some time, my grandfather decided to move to Lusaka, which is Zambia's capital, for no any other reason but for his granddaughter to attend better education. My grandfather really believed in me so much. He never once said, she's just a girl, let me not waste my time on her, no. Then later, he learned about Dzaleka refugee camp in Malawi, that it had better schools, it had better conditions. So in September of 2000, we moved to Malawi. I immediately enrolled in Katubza Primary School, which is a JRS-funded school. And in the camp, life was not very bad for a child my age. I mean, I had food, shelter, friends, and a grandfather who loved me very much. So it wasn't that bad. And at school, I was always top of my class, and this really gave me joy because I got to make so many people proud, and, you know, I was very happy. And in grade 8, I got selected to go to Likuni Girls Secondary School, and the JRS paid for my school fees. And when I had just finished Form 2 in 2007, my grandfather suddenly got sick, and a few days later, he was gone. I cried uncontrollably that day, but life had to move on. And although I was in so much pain from the loss of my loved ones, it did not stop me from working hard, because I knew that my future, it was not certain. I didn't know what my future held, but I knew that my hard work would pay off, and really good grades consoled me. And in 2009, I sat for the national final examination, where I was among the top 6 students in the whole country. And at the award ceremony, best girl award ceremony by the Zodiac Broadcasting Station, the Chinese embassy offered full scholarships to study in China. And there I was, among the scholarship awardees, a refugee, no status, citizenship status, no passport. I mean, how could I go? But thank God for this radio station and so many other people who fought for me, even in the parliament, until I was granted a Malawian citizenship. So in 2010, I was able to go to China and pursue medicine on a Malawian passport. If it was not for this chance, well, my future in terms of higher education was not certain, not at all. In China, I learned Chinese language for 1 year, then later proceeded to learn medicine in Chinese language, which, as you can imagine, was yeah. Yeah, it was very challenging, I can tell you. And I wanted to give up at so many points, but I persisted, because I got to realize that God did not spare my life and take me this high just for myself, no. But there are people that I was meant to serve, and I had to be competent to do so. And there are people that I was meant to inspire, and people I was meant to be a living proof to them that there is a God who works on their behalf. So even though it was tough, challenging, I had to push through and work even harder. And glory be to God, in July 2016, I graduated medical school. So right now I'm a medical intern. Right now I'm a medical intern at Queen Elizabeth Central Hospital in Malawi. So before I went to China, I used to look at myself as just a girl with a tragic past who's gone through a lot, and it just ended there at tragedy. But in China, that's when I realized that I'm a girl with a story to tell, a story of God and His love, a story that can change somebody's life, and somebody with a lot to give, a lot more now as a medical doctor. And that is why I try to find opportunities to speak to children in schools, trying to raise hope among the youth, especially refugee youth. And in future, and hopefully in the near future, I would like to work with refugees, because I believe that I have a lot to share, having gone through what they go through. And now this is my story, but there are a lot of other Mireilles out there. But unfortunately for many, their stories just end at the tragedy part. Many of them don't even get that safe place, a place where their lives could move on and have a good future and attain higher education and in future help rebuild their countries. Others are privileged to get a safe place, but because they have lost all their families, they're forced to be breadwinners at a younger age, and their hope for a higher education is lost. A whole lot of others get a chance to finish primary and secondary education, but because they don't have that chance to attain higher education, their hopes are just crushed, which is the case in Zaleka refugee camp. So what can we do for these Mireilles? There's a lot that we can do. For an immediate start, why not end all this violence? And I'm not talking about people from other countries coming to end the violence in our own countries. I mean, why wait for an outsider to come tell you to stop hurting and killing people of your own blood? I mean, is the money or the power at the expense of their blood really worth it? I don't think so. I mean, why not try the cheaper alternative of resolving conflict like forgiveness, mercy, and love? Is there still humanity in us, or really have we become robots? What is happening to innocent kids is completely unfair, and it needs to stop. And I believe it starts from within us, from love, forgiveness, and mercy. But now that there are a lot of wars going around us and people fleeing their countries, well, we can help these Mireilles by opening our homes to them, providing them with a safe place where their life could move on, giving them food, shelter, medicine. It's all very important, but it's not enough. They need a chance to education, higher education, because these are leaders of tomorrow who will in future strive for peace and help rebuild their countries. These people need to know that they're loved by God and those around them. They need to know that they matter, that there is a hope for them, that they have a purpose in life. So, ladies and gentlemen, are you with me?